right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Bob Pompeani at 412-575-2600. You can air your opinions if you call that number. If you want to do it on Twitter, it's at KDPomp, at Chris Mueller, PGH. Chris is up at 93.7 The Fan for the PM team. And we'll start with Rodgers-Rudolph. My gut tells me it's going to be Rodgers because he doesn't want to miss this game, specifically the way he's played against Chicago, specifically in Chicago, but also I don't think that left wrist is going to be a problem. We've seen guys who've had this before and still play through it. I know he's 42 now, but Chris, my gut tells me he will play. What are your percentages about who will play, whether it's him or Mason Rudolph?
Well, first off, Bob, I don't think he turns 42 until early December. You can't make the man older than he is.
Oh, okay. Well, I rushed it. I thought it was the end of November or so.
However, we do have a big birthday today. Lennox Muller's 7 years old and requested, Bob, listen. Thank you. I know, it is actually like wild that he's 7 already. He also requested sashimi for his birthday dinner. So the kid has taste
unusual.
At 7 years old.
That's unusual.
He just goes, he's just like, I want some of the raw tuna, and he just absolutely devoured it. Very proud of him for that, among other reasons. Anyway, Bob, as you know, on the PM team, Andrew and I are practitioners of the art of reading into tone, reading between the lines. Whenever either Tomlin or Rodgers or anybody very prominent with the Steelers, Art Rooney II, talks, we try to extrapolate meaning. And I was doing the Aaron Rodgers tone police situation today. He's playing. Like, I'm putting this at 90 to 95%. He sounded downright ebullient in his little group scrum. Pleasant answers, joking about Mason Rudolph and how Mason's a troll and always wants to get jokes off and how much he appreciates him as a teammate.
But whatever that is, that is. The other topic of today was James Franklin made his official press conference down at Virginia Tech. I think this is a slam dunk move for Virginia Tech. I really do. I think he's the kind of guy with his recruiting background, especially in that area, can turn that program around. They've been starving for a winner over the last couple of years. They're not that good. They aren't this good again this year. And so in the ACC, which to me is pretty wide open because Clemson and Florida State both have fallen backwards a little bit, there are no outstanding teams like you would find in the SEC or the Big Ten. So what's your forecast for James Franklin and the Hokies?
I'm actually of the opinion that this is a home run hire for Virginia Tech. There's a lot of different things here to speak on briefly, so I'll try to get through them all, Bob. But that program, because of, I would say, their relatively proud lineage and what Frank Beamer built, that whole school considers itself a football school. I think they're pretty embarrassed by what's happened lately there and how much they've fallen off. And there's a commitment there to pump a lot of money and resources, which is what matters, money at this point in college football, back into the program. Franklin obviously is part of this. Him being the head coach and being announced this early, I think gives them a jump as far as trying to keep the players they want to keep and go after players that they want to go after. So I think that's going to be beneficial. And his biggest problem was he didn't beat Ohio State, which is a monolith and the biggest program in the sport right now. He didn't beat Michigan really when it counted, when Harbaugh had them really rolling as kind of a bully and a powerhouse. And otherwise, he would beat most of the teams he was supposed to beat. Right now, that looks like an Ohio State, Indiana Big Ten with maybe Michigan lurking back into prominence. Who does he have? You said it. Clemson stinks right now. They're an objectively bad team. Florida State just can't get out of their own way. There's room if James Franklin, who will recruit the same like DMV, DC, Virginia areas that he recruited when he was at Penn State and kept good players there instead of having them maybe go to Virginia Tech. He's got a much easier pathway to being good every year. I think it's a great hire. I do think this is funny, Bob. I don't know if you heard his presser. You know how he used to complain and bellyache about how the State College, the University Park Airport wasn't close, wasn't a long enough runway, and they'd have to drive to Harrisburg to go on recruiting trips? He literally got petty enough to make a point about that in his intro presser. Would you like to know something interesting, Bob? The reason he complained about State College's airport was he said the runway was too short, right? The runway in Blacksburg in their on-campus airport, or close to, like adjacent airport, is 1,200 feet shorter than the one at Penn State. So what gives here exactly? Like, what's going on? Has James actually taken a laser measure and found out that this thing is 1,200 feet shorter? He might be very upset if he hasn't found that out already.
Well, I wouldn't want to land there if it's shorter. I've seen enough of these pictures of planes that go off the runway. Whatever the case, he was trying to make a point about recruiting.
I'm just saying. He was being extremely petty, and that is very on brand. He is unbelievably unlikable, and that makes it painful for me to say that he will probably have plenty of success at Virginia Tech.
We have a Twitter reaction to this. Jim FSB says, will Franklin be there beyond 5 years? We'll talk about that when we come back, because my answer to that would be no. I think he's using this as potentially a stepping stone. What will Chris say, and what will you say? Call us at 412-575-2600. We're just getting started. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. All right, this is our Xfinity tweet of the night from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. 9 individuals have reached the semifinal stage in the seniors category for the Pro Football Hall of Fame's class of 2026. On that list, you will see L.C. Greenwood. He's one of 9. Roger Craig, Kenny Anderson's on there. I think L.C. Greenwood should be in the Hall of Fame, and hopefully this will be the route that he has to get there. And that's the subject of our KDKA.com Connect poll of the night, brought to you by Penn West University. It says, should L.C. Greenwood be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Yes or no? I say yes. Chris, you say what?
I think so. I think he's probably, I mean, obviously I was not old enough to have watched him live and appreciated what he did, but you can watch enough old games and you can see his impact, and you can plausibly say that he might have been a victim of sort of Steelers saturation bias, where, hey, this team has a bunch of guys that we've got to put in there. The fringe guys aren't going to get in from that era because we can't just have the whole thing made out of Steelers from the 70s. I do think he should be in. I do think he was a dominant enough force. He's not an upper room Hall of Famer for me, obviously, if he gets in, but he's a deserved one. I'm wondering, Bob, what you think about Steve Tasker's continued candidacy and whether or not somebody that good at one specific part of the game, never good enough to be an offensive starter, but a guy who was maybe the greatest core special teamer of all time, whether or not that's good enough to get you in.
Well, Devin Hester,
I just find it fascinating.
In there, right? If he's in there,
but he was a return man. I know Tasker occasionally got in and did stuff like that, but we're talking like the ultimate version of, say, Miles Killebrew. And where I think the split or the schism becomes very interesting here is this: to hear coaches tell it, they think guys like that, even though they're never going to pay them like they're worth their weight in gold, it's clear that some of the best coaches and most successful coaches have guys like that they will always want to keep on their roster. Belichick had Matthew Slater, among others. I think Killebrew's that guy for the Steelers. If Tasker is the ultimate version of that player and coaches think that part of the game is as important as they constantly drum into people in the press that it is, then by extension, I would think a guy like Tasker would actually warrant inclusion into the Hall of Fame. But there is a compelling opposite case to be made here that, no, Steve Tasker, if he was never good enough to be a starter on his side of the ball, how could you possibly make him a Hall of Famer?
Well, Ray Guy's in there because of what he did. Morton Anderson in there, what he did. I said Hester. To me, he's worthy of that based on what he did. So that's up for people to decide, and that's what makes sports conversation so interesting, I think. Let's get to the phone calls here because we have a lot of them, beginning with Jack in Chippewa. Jack joins us here on the hotline. Hey, Jack.
Hey, I want to talk about what the Steelers wish they could do versus what they can actually do, as in the game against Cincinnati when Mason went in, the pocket looked fine to him. He would step back and throw his pass. He would have looked fantastic if, I can't think of his name, would not have taken that offensive interference penalty.
Metcalf.
DK Metcalf?
Yeah, well, but your point is that he's good in the pocket, and that is his strength. I think he's willing to stay in there last to the last second to make a play. I think we saw that when he went through his 3-game streak a couple of years ago, specifically going down the field. And I do think he's more willing and should be able to go down the field more so than we have seen. Although that would take, scheming and doing it in the coaches' meetings this week. But if he has to play, I think that's one of his strengths, actually, Chris.
Listen, I think that when he is in there, he shows a lot more courage in the pocket than he did early in his career. And I'm not here to denigrate him. He played a good game. But I do think people see sometimes what they want to see, or in the case of Rudolph, don't see or don't acknowledge what they don't want to see. For example, I see this in just terms of, can you turn a drive that ends up maybe getting 3 into a drive that gets 7? I think he had 3rd and 2. I think they were either on the fringes of the red zone, Bob, or just inside the red zone. He had 3rd and 2, maybe 3rd and 3. He has Metcalf wide open, just wide open, crossing the defender's face, and it is past the sticks. It would be a first down by at least a yard. And he just doesn't throw the ball. And then he has maybe a riskier throw as he starts to move a little bit to his right, where he still could get the first down if he's willing to cut it loose. Both times he does it, he ends up throwing the ball away, and I get it, people are happy. He played a very sharp-looking game by and large, and that Metcalf OPI definitely hurt his stats, but that's a possession down where it's well, you're standing there, you can see it, why aren't you cutting it loose? And I think people should take at least that under consideration when they pound the table and kind of do what the caller did right there, which is more or less advocate that he should start.
Stan in McCandless Township is up next. Go ahead, Stan.
Hello, how you doing there, guys? Good evening to you, and thank you for taking my call. I want to talk about the pleasantly surprising Pittsburgh Penguinians. Man, they've been doing good. Their power play's looking good. The structure of their team looks a lot better than it did last year. The coach seems to have the arrow pointing up for them. I know you guys are probably surprised as well as I am, and I'll tell you what, when they play against some of the higher level teams, they stay with them.
Yeah, they do, and they've done that this year when they've had that opportunity. I thought a good response for them after the Winnipeg debacle they had. They went into Toronto and dominated for 40 minutes before they fell apart a little bit in the third. But I thought it was important to come back the other day after they lost that game to Nashville in Sweden, and they shut them down, 21 shots. I'm not surprised because I predicted they'd be a playoff team. What I liked is Muse. What I liked is the interaction between youth and veterans. And I didn't know Ben Kindle was going to be this good for sure, though. And Chris, he's on the power play first unit. He's made a big difference up there when he's had a chance to do it.
He's got very obvious, you can't teach this sort of instincts on the power play and playmaking instincts. That's really encouraging. Miroshov was really good against the Predators to get his first win as a shutout in Sweden. They've obviously, I think people who have watched them closely, have given away points, either 2 or 1, with either a sloppy 20 minutes against Toronto or a delay of game earlier in the season that it was an inopportune time, not closing down 2 points when they've had chances to do so, Bob. So that leaves a slight sour taste, but it's overall been pretty impressive. And I think the next question to be answered, and they talked about it today, was what does Brunick have happen? Because he now can go to the AHL on a conditioning loan. That's kind of one of those arcane little roster rules. So then they could have him play in the AHL. He could go, I think, play in the World Juniors still and get some more work in seasoning. He's played 9 games, so we kind of all know that they have to make a decision, but they seem deeply to want to keep him up, and I think maybe wavered a little bit, and now I think are going to try to find a way to split the baby. But it's been way more impressive than I thought it would be. And now, Bob, I think we're far enough into the season where they kind of have to try to pay it off with a playoff run if this lasts 15 more games getting in, because then you stop thinking about Gavin McKenna and think, all right, maybe if we have a goalie, if our old guys are playing well, maybe there's something here to be mined that's actually applicable to this year.
Yeah, well, I think the fact that Brunick hasn't been sent back to juniors tells you what they are planning, and that's not to send him back to juniors. Real quick, Jeremiah, hold on. I want to get to Bill in Peters Township just before we go to break. Go ahead, Bill, make it quick.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Good, thanks. What's on your mind?
Hey, shifting gears to the Pirates, I wanted to know if you wouldn't mind explaining a little bit. I'm confused. The Pirates with the Rule 5 and the advantages or disadvantages with all the changes and so on.
Well, I mean, Rule 5 is simply put, if you get somebody off somebody's roster, And he's
got to keep him.
You have to keep him all year. Who was the last? I'm trying to think the last Pirate who went through this and actually made it all the way to the end of the year. Now I'm drawing
I don't know.
a blank.
It's usually that they lose. It's usually they lose guys in the Rule 5 draft that teams can't believe that they have left unprotected for the Rule 5, and then those guys go over to other teams and end up playing well. And I'm not naming any names right now because I can't think of any that spring to mind, but I feel like that scenario has happened to them 10 times as often as they've had a Rule 5 pick actually pan out from somebody else's
because they're
team.
desperate to find talent. They'll find it if that's the way they can do it, but you have to keep it. And I can't remember the last guy I'm thinking of, but we've got to go to a break, maybe find out in the break. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We return right after this. I teased to a tweet coming in from Jim, and he wanted to know if Franklin will be there beyond 5 years. I say no. I think he'll probably, if what I think is going to happen, he'll turn that program around pretty quickly, and if he does that, there are going to be some other jobs that open up for him. And I just got the feeling he would move again. This time on his own.
Actually.
You do?
I do. I think there's going to be enough money there. And here's a trend I think you're going to start seeing. Teams are going to stop paying, unless the results are huge, these $11, $12, $13 million salaries like the Signetti and Kirby Smart tier, and realize that if they want to build a winner, they're going to pay the coach less. They're going to put more money that they can from that basic pool where they might pay a coach into the roster. And I think Franklin might just say, you know what? If I can get a buy-in from the university, I can get a lot of the players, and I can win huge in an easier conference and keep getting to college football playoff games, why wouldn't he stay there? Like, Lane Stadium is not Beaver Stadium, but it also isn't small potatoes as far as college football venues and places with tradition. So I think he absolutely could stay at Virginia Tech beyond 5 years if he has a lot of success there. Like, that's a weird program because it's like a 30-ish ranked job right now, but if it gets hopping, it's going to be like more of like a top 20, top 15 job again.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. Real quick, yes or no, because we only have about 20 seconds. Pitt, do they get a chance to play in the ACC championship game? Because there's a long list of stuff I recited today on the radio that I looked into. It's pretty crazy, but they do have a chance. Yes or no? Do you think they will?
I think they're going to beat Georgia Tech, and I think it's going to be a win-and-you're-in situation somehow against Miami. So that makes me nervous as somebody that's watched Pitt do this many, many, many times in the past.
I agree. But Georgia Tech, they have it all in front of them as well. All right, Chris, that's going to do it. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. We'll do it again tomorrow night, and that's going to do it for our show tonight. Thank you for joining us, and we'll do it again tomorrow, as I said, at 412-575-2600. Call, air your opinions. We appreciate it, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10:35. Good night.